Hello everyone, hope you guys are doing well. Here is Dilgam Shafilov and I'm gonna explain you guys the oxidation number manual that I have uploaded on the blackboard. So we're gonna start with the first one over here. It says any element by itself in neutral form carries zero charge. For example, sodium, potassium, magnesium, oxygen, chlorine, and sulfur. As you guys can see here, sodium doesn't have any charge on the top right corner. So this guy by itself is always zero. Same goes with potassium. By itself, no charge given on it, so it's zero. Same goes with magnesium. Oxygen is a diatomic element. It means that oxygens come in two in nature. So that's why even if it's diatomic, it comes in multiples. There is no charge on it, so it is again zero. Same goes with chlorine. Sulfur comes in multiples as well. No charge on it, so it is zero. So we move on to the next one. It is the second rule we have here. First group elements. First group elements, they are part of compound, they have +1 charge. So you see this, I want you to guys check out this four. Hydrogen, lithium, sodium, potassium. Sometimes hydrogen have an exception, but these other three guys, they're always +1. The only exception where we have a negative charge for hydrogen is when we combine with metals. Okay, so because sodium is always +1, we're gonna have hydrogen different in here. Take a look at this one. You see the compound by itself has a charge of zero because nothing is given on it. And we know that sodium is +1, and the charge total of these two guys needs to add up to zero. So this one is +1, and this one gotta be next -1, so they add up to zero. Okay, so we move on to the third rule, which is the second group elements. So we have this guys in here: beryllium, magnesium, calcium. I want you to guys check out this three mainly. Remember that these guys are always +2. Okay, and then we have the fourth one. Oxygen is -2 charge. Okay, the only exception is when we have a peroxide, but 95% of the time, okay, oxygen is -2. Just memorize this. And then we go into fifth. This is the 7A group, the halogens. They're always -1. At least 95% of the time. Fluorine is the most electronegative element, which is why it's always -1. They have an exception when they make a compound with each other, which is given over here. So I'm going to show you an example, but just remember that they are -1. Like in our examples, you will always put them as -1. So if you have chlorine, fluorine compound over here, we know that there's no charge given on the top right corner, so it is zero. So this whole thing adds up to zero. We know that fluorine 100% of the time, fluorine 100% of the time is negative. Okay, these guys are -1 too, but they just have a little bit exception. But fluorine is the 100% -1 because it's the most electronegative element. So we'll put -1 to fluorine, and they need to add up to zero, this two charges. So we're gonna make this one +1, so they add up to zero. Okay, this is the only exception, but other than that, -1. And then you have some of the ions in here that you need to know. I'm just marking the very important ones: the nitrate, hydroxide, and then we have permanganate, okay, this guy, and then we have sulfate, ammonium ion, and then phosphate. You need to know this guys too. Okay, so altogether I made you guys like memorize around 8 ions. So I'm just going to review this back again. So by itself it's always zero in the first rule. First group elements are always +1. Third is the second group elements are always +2: beryllium, magnesium, calcium. okay, this guy's. And then oxygen is always -2, only there's one exception here. And then fluorine, bromine, iodine, they are -1. Don't worry about the exceptions that much because you will be asked mainly the general scenarios. Okay, now let's do the exercise together. So it's asking give the oxidation number of each kind of atom or ion. Okay, so sulfate. Let's look at the sulfate. You see, like I told you guys to memorize this. So sulfate, we're gonna write it down, SO4. And as you can see, the charge is -2 on this guy, okay? So we're gonna look back here, SO4. We know this whole thing adds up to -2. And we know that the oxygen is -2 always. So let's do the math. We don't know this one, so we'll put X on S. So we write it down like this. Because we have only one of this, it's going to be 1 times X plus 4 times -2 adds up to -2. Okay, and then you do the math. X minus 8 is -2, and then X is plus 6. Okay, we'll move on to the next one. As you can see, there's no charge on it, element by itself, 10, so the charge is 0. The charge of this guy is given on top, it is -2. Iron is given by +3, so it is +3. Tin this time has a charge of +4, so it is +4. Now we have nitrate and ammonium ion. We need to go back here. We see where is the nitrate. Okay, nitrate. We have it here. Okay, NO3, and the charge is given to us is that it is -1. So NO3 equals to -1. We know that oxygen is -2. We don't know this guy. So 1 times X, if there's nothing written, that means that there's only one of them. 1 times X plus 3 times -2 equals to -1. And then X minus 6, -1, and then X equals to +5. Okay? And then we have ammonium ion. If you look at here, ammonium ion is this guy. We're gonna write this down, ammonium ion. The whole thing has a charge of +1. We know that the hydrogen is +1. We don't know this guy, so it's gonna be 1 times X, because no number is given. We know that it's 1 plus 4 times 1 adds up to 1. And then X equals to 1 minus 4, which is -3. Okay, so nitrogen over here is -3. And now we're gonna go into compounds. So you have this guy here, chrome 2O3. Okay, so we know that there's no charge on the top right corner. Okay, so we know that they are gonna add up to 0. So we put like this bracket, and then we know that oxygen is always -2. We don't know this guy. Okay, so we say, we do the math. 2 times X plus 3 times -2 equals to 0. Okay, 2x minus 6 is 0, 2x is 6, and then from here we have x is +3. Okay, and now we do this guy over here, sodium 2, chrome 2O7. So overall there's no charge given on it, so we know that it adds up to 0. So sodium, we know that it is +1 from our list above. That's our second rule. And then it's a first group element, right? And then chromium we don't know, but we know oxygen is -2. So let's do the math. 2 times 1 plus 2 times X plus 7 times -2. This is going to be 0. And then 2 times X, this is like this, minus 14 is 0. And then we have 2x minus 12 is 0, and X is going to be +6. Okay, and then we move on to this guy, chrome sulfate. Okay, chrome sulfate. So let's write this one, chrome sulfate. So we know from up here that sulfate is -2. Okay, so we come here, let's put this together. So the whole thing adds up to 0. We are agreed on this, and the sulfate is -2. You see there's only one sulfate, SO4, and this guy needs to add up to 0. So this is gonna be +2. You can put like x plus -2 equals to 0, x is +2, or you can just say that, okay, it's +2 because this is -2 and they add up to 0. Okay, so we have that. Now we want to find sulfur. Let's say you want to find the sulfur oxidation number. So you know that this guy was +2 by itself, and then oxygen by itself is -2, but we don't know this guy, and we know that this whole thing adds up to 0. So we have one of this, one of sulfur, and 4 of oxygen. So 1 times 2 plus 1 times x plus 4 times -2, which is 0. And then you do this math, 2 plus x minus 8 is 0, x minus 6 is 0, x is +6. So we found the charge of sulfur, which is +6. So even if you do the math right now, 2 plus 6 is +8, plus 4 times -2, this is another -8, so they add up to 0. And then we do chromate and dichromate. Let's find this, guys. So chromate, you see it's here, and dichromate is this guy. Chromo 4 -2, chromo 2O7 -2. Let's do the math together. So chrom 04, the whole thing has a charge of -2. We know that the oxygen is -2. We don't know this guy. So because there's only one given, we don't write the number. So 1 times x plus 4 times -2 adds up to -2. And then x minus 8 is -2. It's going to be x -2 plus 8. This is +6. Okay. And then we have chrome 2O7. It's a dichromate, this guy, and I found it here. Dichromate. So we're going to dichromate. This whole thing equals to -2. We know that the oxygen is -2, and this guy is going to be x. So 2 times x, 2x, plus 7 times -2 adds up to -2. And then you do 2x equals to -2 plus 14. And then you have x equals to, let's do one more step, x equal to +6. Okay, so if you do this together, like on your paper, you will be ready on finding the oxidation number for your exam. Thank you very much. Now I'm going to take another shot for the second video.